Hey friends, welcome back to Hey Wait. You know how this is a show about creating a little space between what's happening inside you and what's happening around you? Well, today's conversation is a perfect example of that. We're talking about noise, which is something that affects us all. Overstimulation, interruptions, the constant hum of the modern world that so many of us have just learned to tolerate. But when the world around you doesn't match what your nervous system needs, it can take a real toll. As a highly sensitive person, I've always been affected by noise. But after a severe concussion several years ago, when I temporarily lost my ability to speak, I really got it. Because even mild input overwhelmed my brain. And noise-canceling headphones became my lifeline. And they were what allowed me to slowly re-enter the world. And that experience taught me that regulation doesn't always start with managing your reactions. Sometimes it starts by reducing the input. And my guest today is someone who really gets that. Bill Schiffmiller is the founder and CEO of Akoio, a company that helps organizations understand how sound, especially in the workplace, affects well-being and performance and inclusion. Bill has a long and brilliant history in accessibility. He's a lifelong hearing aid user, a former leader of Apple's global accessibility initiatives, and a Forbes contributor. And he's a key voice at the table when it comes to designing environments that truly work for everyone. But what makes Bill's work so powerful is that he's not just talking about accessibility, he's embodying it. And his message reaches far beyond hearing loss. It's about understanding how your environment shapes your experience and what shifts when you name what you need. But what moves me most about Bill's work, and I think you'll love this, it's how it's about learning to tune into what you actually feel so you can stop accepting discomfort as just the way things are and start making space for more joy. I first met Bill through a group called Leaders Who Care, and from our very first conversation, I felt like I was talking to a kindred spirit. His way of connecting dots between design and emotion and empathy always leaves me feeling more grounded and more aware. So I'm so happy to get to share this conversation with you. It's an invitation to your own Hey Wait moment, one that asks, what's my experience of my soundscape, and what do I actually need right now? With that, there's a point toward the end of our conversation where there's a background noise on Bill's end, and it's a little distracting, but it's also kind of perfect because it'll give you a chance to experience exactly what we're talking about. So get curious about what the experience of that noise is like for you and stay with us, because whether you're someone who works in a noisy office or struggles with overstimulation or just wants to understand yourself and others in a new way, this episode's for you. Bill, it's good to see you.
You too, Jay. How are you?
Well, we just did a couple of together, so I'm a
Let it all
little.
out.
I'm happy you're here, and I want to tell the listeners that a couple weeks ago, you and I had a conversation. It was just we were just catching up, and at the end of it, I was like, dang, that should have been recorded because that was so fun and so fascinating. So that's what we're here doing, not to try and recreate that conversation, but because every conversation I've ever had with you is fun and fascinating. So I trusted this one will be.
Absolutely. Let's just keep that going and let's have fun with it. And I'm just looking forward to what's to come.
Same.
Yeah.
I think I was excited to have you here as a guest because you have such a unique perspective and such a insight into human experience. Like I've always gotten the sense that when we talk, I can really feel you, and I can feel how deeply engaged you are with yourself and the world.
Yes, and it stems from my own vulnerability of being a hard of human man, and I was born with hearing loss, and although I didn't get my hearing aid till I was 6, there was always been that struggle with where do I belong in this world, and I've come to realize as a grown man that I am who I am because of the struggle that I've had to deal with personally and professionally, and I don't want others to go through what I've been through. And if I can give you some advice, some insight on what I went through and how it can help you, why not? And
my experience of you, yes, you have things to share that are insightful and advice that's helpful, but more importantly to me has been that you just have a level of empathy, that you're able to really consider someone else's experience in a way that not many people do as they're moving through the world.
You know, I don't know what you call this, Jay, but if I see somebody over there and they trip, I feel their pain. Like, ouch, I'm going to feel something. Now, is there a connection to that? I don't know. But I find that I do more for others than I do for myself. And it gets back to that point of I've been hurt unintentionally because of my own hearing loss. And I don't want anybody to go through that. I don't want anyone to deal with that. And guess what? Just because you have this thing about the way people perceive you, it's all up here. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be. And I just want things to be better for people. And one of the things that I've learned, because I'm a visual learner, I'm a visual observer, and I can read people's faces and body language, is it's okay. Just share with me what's going on, and I align with you. You don't have to share verbally what's going on, but just be present. Just say, it's okay. It is okay. Let's just enjoy the moment that we have with each other. And that's always been the case. Going back to my early days in my career, and I found myself helping others. And then later on, I had a client who bumped into me in the street and goes, are you still in the help business? And even though I wasn't coming in as a psychiatrist or as a social worker or anything like that, I happened to be in the graphic field, and it was just my nature to help others so we can all excel. We all need each other to help us. So at that moment, I never thought, gee, yes, I am in the help business.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was that a shock for you to be, wow, that's how he sees me?
It was a delightful surprise, and it helped explain my attitude and the kinds of relationships that I have with people, personally and professionally.
Well, would you be willing to kind of zoom in and share with us, when did you first understand that you had a different relationship to the auditory matters of the world, and how that unique relationship shaped how you moved through the world and who you are?
Yeah, so I think we should go back to being a teenager, and I was about 15 years old. I was on a backpacking trip out west. We were about 12 teenagers in a van. We were heading out west. And about 2 weeks into the trip, after we'd done some climbing and some backpacking trails and all that, tension started to build up with each other. And the counselor said, time out. We need to figure out what's going on here. And so I remember very distinctly, I think we were in outside of Montana, near Bozeman, what have you, and it's raining outside, and here we are, 12 teenagers in a 15-passenger van, and it's raining, and one by one, oh, well, he sucks, and she sucks, and he did this, and he did that, and by the time it was my turn, it suddenly became about me and where I fit in. And that's when I realized, stop fighting, trying to be somebody that I am not, and say, I am hard of hearing. I use hearing aids to help me get through the day. And I realize the struggles that I face as a hard of hearing person at a time when I'm coming of age as a teenager. And that quieted everybody down. The counselors were crying. We're talking about 23, 24-year-old men with beard, and they're crying. And I realized, wow, what a breakthrough for me, but they were having their own kind of breakthrough. We didn't have enough Kleenex to go around, but that was the moment when I said, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do going forward. I am not going to be managed by the adults, may it be the parents, my parents, the school, what have you. Enough. I'm my own person. That's what I'm going to do.
That's your hey wait moment. This is me. I'm going to consider me. I'm going to ask other people to see me the way I want to be seen. So you mentioned everyone else, what their experience was like in that moment. What was that like for you in your body to claim that?
I don't know if there's anything bigger than a good schwitz or a good poop or anything. It was like it was locked up, and it's like it opened the Kraken.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why I love about the good poop is Guy Kawasaki, one of the investors out there, has a book called Eat a Lot Like a Bird, but Poop Like an Elephant. And so I think...
I've never heard that.
But maybe it's a line or title of his book, but that's what was happening. Is all of those pre-15 years of my life was all building up, and then I would do...
No more constipation with all that shit.
Right, no more constipation. Exactly. And no Metamucil did not help. But
it's funny, I ask people all the time, when we're with clients and they're talking about a moment in which they had their, hey, wait, I need you to consider me, and I always ask what it feels like, and I've never had someone say it felt like a big poo, and I just so appreciate, yeah, I get that.
And we need to encourage others, I think sometimes when somebody has a rage, it's like you just need to have them in a safe way without causing harm to others to have that rage. And that's what it was for me. It was almost like a bit of rage that I just needed to get out. And you know what, Jay? I didn't anticipate that this going to happen. I think when you start to hear what others are going through, and you're like, I'm not really experiencing that with you guys. I'm going through my own experience, and that's where, boom.
Yeah.
And I think folks need to find a way, find that channel, and say what you try to do with your work. It's like, hey, let's get ourselves grounded and say it's okay to feel what you're feeling, but express it. It may not be understood by others, but if you can understand it, why not?
Right. And if I say this all the time, if you can feel you, someone else can feel you. And that's the beginning of connection. And I think this is one of the things that is always fascinating to me about our conversations is on some level, you and I do the same work, but the actual outcome of it is different, or the details of it are different, but ultimately you really help people feel what they're feeling, express what they need once they know what they're feeling, and become less oblivious to themselves and each other. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. Because of the work I do on accessibility. And, you talked about auditory matters that I do. That falls under accessibility. And it's like, people don't realize that we're all vulnerable, mentally and physically. That, A, we all need to be seen and heard. And B, to be recognized. Where are you going with this? Or we can help you find where you may be going with it. And one of the things I realized through the work I've done at Apple is, let me listen to you and what your needs are. You came in today because you need a computer, but then when I talked to you, asked you with permission, how you want the computer to do, conduct for you. Well, I do this, I do that, and next thing you know, when you let a person talk and they begin to have confidence or trust, now trust is a big word, but if they gave you permission to ask the question and they start to reveal things to you, that way with attentive listening, things are going to be revealed. And very often that I came in for a computer is like, you know what? You're not getting a computer today. You're getting something else. And that is understanding what their needs are. And by aligning with them, you also get to understand what their own personal needs are. Now, of course, there are others, in the thousands of customers that I help, it was more transactional. But then there were those significant things like those with disability, and I know what disability means. Just the name in itself is demeaning, and it shows that you have a special need. And up until that point, there weren't many resources other than nonprofit groups to help those with vision, physical needs, or other illnesses. But no one was doing it in a way where, you know what? I'm getting out of the confines of my home. I'm getting out of the confines of those support groups, and I'm going to a brand like Apple and saying, you know what? It's okay to have a conversation with us and understand what your needs are. And the more time I spent with people, it's like people were coming to the Apple retail space saying, hey, hi, I want to be heard. Can you help me?
Oh my gosh.
Help me.
Right. I want to be heard. That's everybody.
That's it at the end of the day. It does not mean you have to agree with them, but people just need to express. And I guess that gets back to the point we were saying earlier about maybe raise. Now, this is more conversational, but maybe that little bit of raise is coming through in a very polite way.
Right, a way where it has a witness. I think that's the difference. Like when the person is conscious that they're running that energy as opposed to, just exploding it on people. I think it can be healthy and informative for everybody.
Yeah, sometimes I noted that I will be just a sounding board. And it's like, let them flush out whatever they're expressing, and then go, okay, let's take this piece and what's relevant to why we're here together today, and go from there.
Can you share a little bit more about what you're doing now with Akoio?
Absolutely. So Akoio is a consultancy to businesses on accessibility and auditory health matters. Our big focus today is noise in the workplace. And when we first started Akoio a while back, it was about addressing the impact of hearing loss and trying to get people to identify with their hearing, to get it tested. If they have a hearing loss, to then get hearing aids. Well, that sucks. That feels miserable. Because no matter how much I spoke and wrote in layman terms what that meant, and no pun intended, it would fall on deaf ears. And audiology has been trying to do this for years. They still can't do it. So I realized that the better conversation is noise. And that's where, dude, let's talk. And we learned that coming out of the pandemic, in January 2025 is when companies are expecting their workers to come back to the office physically. There was a lot of trepidation. And because of that, when we talk to clients and potential clients, noise in the workplace, their ears perk up. And this is where we start having a dialogue on what is noise to you. And that's where things get revealed. That's where people start to understand communication dynamics. That's where they get to understand why I feel the way I do, and why I'm not able to perform. And so when a company sees that, the client sees that, they say, wow, you're helping boost morale. You're helping them produce innovation where they can also be productive. And guess what? It affects the company's bottom line.
I'm just sitting here feeling what you're saying, and excuse me, this is like asking fish to tell you about water, right? Like this is the atmosphere we move in is soundscapes, but how infrequently we think to, again, all this language, tune into that layer of our experience as something that's really impacting us. And like any other relationship, I'm also imagining that everyone has a very different relationship to sound. Like I might love tranquility and complete silence, and you might just go bananas in that.
That is so true, and the folks who love the urban setting, they love the hums and the noises of a city. A great example of that is my father grew up in the Bronx in New York City in an apartment dwelling. And, you had the subways, you had the buses, you had the garbage trucks and all that. And when he was starting to raise a family and moved us out to, I wasn't even born yet, but when he moved my mom and my sister out to the suburbs, he realized that he couldn't sleep because it was too quiet. And so when he ultimately got an apartment many years later, he slept like a baby, like he did in the Bronx.
Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because I have the exact opposite experience. I, for years in my 20s, lived out in a yurt in the woods and out of the city. And I moved in with my boyfriend at the time. And the first night that we moved, I was in Portland, Oregon. We turned off the light and it wasn't dark in the room. First off, because just the ambient light and the sound, the ambient sound, and I just started bawling. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because it's not dark and it's not quiet. And one day I'm going to think that it is." Do you know what I mean? Like one day this is going to become darkness and become silence to me because I'm just going to get used to it. And that makes me so sad because I'm someone who loves, I don't like the city sounds. I like that heavy blanket of silence. It's like, yeah. Give it to me.
Along with the smells that go with the spaces
Yes.
that you're in. Yes. And what I love about those moments is we're so drawn with our head being down or looking straight ahead. But in those moments that you're describing, is to be able to look up. And that's where, thank you. Thank you. I need to be reminded, get up from underneath it, the way I look at this. So, you know, the noise now is so prevalent, and it's affecting those with good hearing and those who are deaf in ways that we've never seen before.
Well, because it's not just what you noise isn't just what you hear, it's what you feel too.
Well, it's vibration.
Yeah.
You know, noise, as animals are trained to, noise is a fear-fight mechanism. You know, imagine, you know, those poor elephants in Thailand, there they are in Bangkok, a city environment with concrete roads, and there's all this traffic. They're in a state of fear all the time because all that vibration of the city is causing a lot of stress.
Well, I'm sure this is part of what you do, but I'm now translating that to the human nervous system in a workplace or the human nervous system in your house with your family. If this is this layer of experience that we all are having, that we're not tuning into, and we don't know how it's impacting our nervous system, then it's also impacting the way we relate to each other.
And a lot of it also has to do with a lot of disruption that's happening. You have notification, sound notification coming out of our devices, coming out of one's computer, the different sounds that it makes. Then you have someone with a loud voice who doesn't realize how loud they're talking because they have headphones over their ears, and they're gaming, so they get all excited and loud. And then you have chatter of someone on the phone with a relative, and you're in a confined space. You know, I live in an apartment, and I am experiencing those things. And I am like many others, may it be in a big dwelling or not, but you have all these activities going on. And when you start to think about what happens upon waking hours, with all the noises that are taking place, starting with the coffee maker, the shower going, the banging of the refrigerator, or the activity going on in the kitchen to prepare lunch.
Or what I call in our house the fart fan. Ours rattles, and when it goes on and it's right next to the bathroom's right next to my office, and when it goes on, I'm like, ugh.
And then you have the commute wherever you have to go, whatever you're doing next, and you have that interference, and then you get to the office, and it's like, okay, it's been 2-3 hours since I woke up. Boy, I'm stressed already, and I haven't even started the work yet.
And you don't know why.
Exactly.
So what can we do then? Like, I'm imagining the listener here being like, yeah, this is really resonating. What can you tell us to how to shift?
Be aware of the noises around you, for starters. Just be aware and write a journal. Keep a tally of, I heard this, it made me feel that. A great example is public buses. Stand clear of the closing door. You hear that repeatedly. And then you hear a female voice come on, and the next stop is 57th and 5th. Staying clear of the closing door. And then there's somebody on the bus going, yeah, and you know what my boyfriend did to me the other day? And so you get in all this, and it's like, all right, time out. I need a timeout. So keep a journal of all these things that are happening. It will start to make sense of, ooh, these things are affecting me. That's just something that's audible. What about the bus braking? What about the car horn? blasting? What about the sound notification coming from you and others all around you? You have to look at all those commotions and say, okay, what if I found a way? Like, I know that you're using AirPods. Now, can I use some of the features within the AirPods, like noise cancellation or dimming the background noise around me? And I was like, those are some of the things that you can do to start to reduce. You can't eliminate, but reduce some of those outer noises that are affecting you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, again, listening through the lens of my own work. What you're saying is have more embodied self-awareness, especially at the layer of your auditory input. You said to me the last time we talked that you can close your eyes, but you can't close your ears, right? And that's such an important mind blown moment of like, oh yeah, I can't close my ears. That's how important hearing is to survival and safety, which means that's how linked it is to our nervous system, which means we have to pay attention to how we can moderate that input, because it will be, it could help or hinder us, or help or hijack us, I guess.
Well, and the fact that we can't close our ears, but at least you could listen to your heart, maybe, okay, how is it beating, or your soul, two ways of looking at it, but how it forces you to go, okay, what is my body going through? Do I feel tense in my shoulder, in my neck, and why is that? And even though you close your eyes, but suddenly your ears is telling you something about what's going on, and you will start to recognize and ask questions and make attempt to, how do I make this better?
Right. So it's a way to relate to yourself with care in a way that most people don't tend to think of.
Exactly. It's like, why am I tensing up when I make coffee in the morning? Why is there
Sure.
that tense?
Yeah.
Okay, stop, drop it.
Well, you said something earlier when you were talking about your work with other people. You used the word attentive listening, and that's what it sounds like. You're inviting people to attentively listen.
Yeah, because we're so distracted with all the things that are coming at us at 100 miles per hour. But if we take a moment to pause and truly listen, which most people don't do well, everybody hears, but they don't truly listen. And they talk at people, not to people.
What's the difference between hearing and listening?
Hearing is the communication piece, okay? You're hearing all things around you, but listening is an effort to understand, what is being communicated, or what am I truly enjoying, like music. You and I talk about music sometimes, and how you're listening to music with attention, because you're trying to get meaning out of something when you're listening.
The effort to understand or to acknowledge meaning.
Exactly. We're hearing what others say, but we're not picking up on what they're actually saying. That's where listening comes into play.
Yeah. Well, so I feel like I might have interrupted you when you were answering my question about what can people do, and you said, listen. I kind of took us off on a tangent, so I wanted to come back to see. You were saying listen and like make a journal, make note. This is what I'm hearing. This is how it made me feel. Is there anything else that kind of brings that home?
Absolutely. So one of the things that people should be aware of, there are three pieces that make up your auditory health. There's noise that we've been talking about. which is the disruption. There's sound, which is the pleasant wellness piece. And then what we were just talking about is healing, and that's the communication piece. When you start to jot down all of the things that you're experiencing, you'll begin to say, hey, some of these fall into one of these buckets. And then you start to add them up and go, all right, I really have a noise issue, but you know what, I seem to be doing fine when it comes to sound. But when I realize I'm having trouble with communication, that's the hearing piece. And so when you start to collect all these things, you start to paint the picture and go, where am I really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I talked about the commute. It's no different when you're at the office. Do I hear the inner workings of the building, the plumbing, or any of the infrastructure that make up the building? Is there somebody's voice that irritates me? Is there the chatter with the group? Is there the issue of light and the way a room is designed that's affecting me?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to take those things into account and say, hey, how do I work best? And how can I improve my relationship with my peers as well as my superior?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can start to see all these cues that are affecting you, then you go, okay, I have all these ingredients, but I don't know what the recipe is yet. That's a big step when you collect all those ingredients.
That's agency. I'm also realizing as you're saying all this, Bill, wherever you are is getting louder in the background.
Well, over here on the side is there's a conference room, so it looks like they're on a lunch break.
Oh, yeah, there was a sudden influx of noise.
And I'm in a sound booth, but eat your heart out. I have muted my hearing aid so I don't hear those folks outside. It's focused on the conversation I'm having with you.
That's funny.
And see, the way I just shared it with you, eat your heart out,
Mm-hmm.
how cool is it for a hard of hearing man to say to you, yeah, I mean, half my challenges, but guess what? I got a cool feature and I'm managing it. I think I'm doing okay.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. When you were talking about that big, hey, wait moment for you at 15, where you spoke your truth, I just, that was probably 40, 50 years ago at this point. And I imagine it happens all the time still, these moments where you get to reclaim, this is who I am. And that was one of them. Just right there. Just like, eat your heart out. This is
and just so you could tell the difference. So what I just showed to you is some of the practices that an individual can use with respect to whom they're talking to. It's not just about me. It's also about, I know what it's like to be in your place, Jay. Oh, I'm hearing all this. And it's like, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Mm-hmm. When I don't have to speak, I'm going to mute. That's a great way of working together and saying, hey, how do we approach this together?
Right. And that's one of the things I love so much about your work, is it comes down to how do we do this together? So where can people find more about you and your work?
At Akoio.com, Akoio.com. I do contribute to Forbes. So if you look up my name through Forbes, you will see an array of articles where I write about accessibility in the workplace.
So good.
You can also find me in LinkedIn. And I do have a few noise situation stuff in YouTube to make people realize, hey, what's all the ruckus going on out there?
What's all the ruckus? Thank you for that. And I do encourage you, listener, to check it out. His Forbes articles are always really thought-provoking and interesting. And yeah, and your work is just, it's so, I'm going to use the word again, fascinating, helpful, and I appreciate you sharing about it today, Bill.
I do. Thank you, Jay. And it's a partnership. And it's like we just said, it's about a collaboration. It's about working together. And I commend you for the work that you're doing in letting others know we got this together.
Yeah.
Here's some thoughtful things. It's very simple. It's like, oh, Jay, why didn't I think of that? Thanks, Jay.
All right. Well, speaking of simple and in it together, my final question falls under the category of staying with yourself. So I'm curious, Bill, if you have a small practice or a ritual or a reminder that you do throughout your day to help you stay with yourself, and particularly when other people are around.
With other people around? Well, if I have a moment to myself, just like, what was that movie? Broadcast News, where, what was her name, that actress? She would have a crying session every morning before she would start her work. So I have a purpose. I'm an emotional guy. I want to cry. I'm okay with crying, so let me cry. And I find that I am crying from some of the issues that have been on my mind from the day before.
It's the emotional poo. It's like,
let me cry.
Let it. This is so great. I am also a big crier. Years ago, I saw this. A friend of mine texted me a picture of something she saw in the store that said, "I cry a lot, but I'm pretty cool."
I'm open and admit it.
So I'm going to change that a little bit. I cry a lot and I'm really cool. And that is such a great practice and ritual because it is a cleansing. It's there's build up, emotional, just doesn't have to have a story.
Really,
it can be.
And the thing that are brewing.
Yeah.
I gotta go, oh no, what a thing. And it's like, cry? What was the big deal? And besides, take those things that you consume, make them a checklist and be proactive and deal with it. And then you go after the crying and after you do that and so what was the big deal?
Yeah, totally. It's like I was saying, it doesn't even have to have a story. It can just be the energy of it. It's not in your body anymore. And now you can move forward.
Crying is the new spit.
Can we? That's your quote. There it is. Bill Schiffmiller. Crying is the new schwitz. That is your gift to all the listeners today. Thank you, Bill. And listener, for reals, crying is the new schwitz. So if you haven't had a cry in a while, maybe this is your opportunity right now to just go have a few tears. Move on with the rest of your day. And I'm trying to wind it up here because I'm wanting to keep talking to you, but realizing people do need to get back to the rest of your day. So thank you, Bill, again.
Thank you, Jay. Again, always a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you, listeners. And share this because I think this is probably a pretty unique conversation that you might not have heard in other places. So if you have friends, family that you know would benefit from this conversation, share it with them. If you have questions or comments, you can always follow me on Instagram. I'm at Hey Wait with Jay. I welcome your DMs to let me know what you're thinking about or tell me about your personal Hey Wait moments. And remember, your experience matters, and the people who and the right people will meet you there. So stay with yourself, and I'll see you next week.